Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Rob Browne here with the morning run. Great show in store for us today. And bottom line, a lot to talk about. College football is going to be a lot of fun. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, joins us here in just a second. And we're going to be talking a lot about Arkansas, Auburn, what's going on with Arkansas. And I'm looking here at what is happening right now. And I'm looking, I mean, you wouldn't believe there's a lot of stuff coming in here before the show. And we are going to be attacking it. LSU fans, how are we paying $2 million a year to Matt House as defensive coordinator? And Matt House came from the NFL. This is I think his second year there, not getting the job done. That is so frustrating. And, you think, who puts these contracts together? And it's always, well, if we don't get him, someone else will. BS. That's a bunch of, as Archie Bunker used to say, sitting on his fat ass in his old dirty, stinky chair. That's a bunch of crapola. I mean, it really is. These athletic directors that put the ball and chain to colleges for these 5 and 7 and 10-year indentured servant contracts, they should all be fired and stripped of their pensions. Good grief. We have lost our minds. We do this show at least 25 times a month, 300 plus shows a year. Repetition's the mother of all skill. Bring on the best guest, true grit journalism, the grand master of the best looking baseball park in America. Folks, that is Heber Springs, Arkansas, right there in the back. You damn right. My pledge brother
down there all the time.
Yeah, listen, my pledge brother Brian Keeter from Heber Springs, Arkansas, and his nephew Troupe Keeter, who we had on the show with us a couple of weeks ago. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous part of the country. We are up here at the mother-in-law's been up here a few days and stayed a little longer than we realized, but getting a lot of stuff done. Man, Granny will be happy. Her son Kurt and Audrey have been redoing her house. Wow, she's going to be excited. But we're in the temporary studios. I don't know what I got going on in the background, Dad. It looks like a penny farthing, one of those old bicycles people used to ride around. Man, it's I'm not sure what all's back there. But anyway, a lot to talk about today, folks. A lot of fun. Love having Dudley Dawson on. Jason Caldwell is going to be on right after this. So, Dudley, stay on if you can. We'll talk with Jason, talk about that Auburn and Arkansas matchup. College football, man. Man, where do you get started? There's so much news. And, Dudley, you were the one to talk about it. But, last week, Arkansas was given a new lease on life, and they went on the road, and it worked out. Follow up on that.
Yeah, a lot of fans happier around here this week. They've the Bluebird of Happiness sung for at least 1 week.
Yeah.
It had not sung in like 2 months or whatever. But obviously, I tell you the number one thing I saw, and I think it's pretty evident that Dan Enos, for whatever reason, it didn't work out and was holding this team back. This team showed so much joy in playing before, in the pregame warmup. Things like, hopping around, dancing. They clearly felt like the albatross had been lifted off their shoulder. And I knew that it wasn't great over there, but I didn't realize that it had, gone from, just hate, it seemed like. That may be a bad word to use, but, from all you're hearing now, that was the case. And they were free of that, went out, played well, still came close to not winning and losing another one of these close games, but they did win in the end. Kenny Guyton, put together a great game plan. They executed well. The quarterback had a ball. He had a ball going back to what how he played before. And I think we can all see now that there was enough talent on this team to not be 2-6. maybe not be 6-2, but not be 2-6. And I think they're going to come home in good fashion. Not saying they're going to win all three, but what you got set up with Auburn.
Yeah.
Here at home, you've got Florida International, who will be confused by playing on Saturday. They've been playing on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays during the year.
Yes.
And then you've got Missouri, which Missouri showed, they'd go toe-to-toe with Georgia, great football team. You would think that during that stretch, if they were to win these next two and they had a chance for a bowl, they'd just, they would go all out that last week. And that was not what we were thinking, sit back there 2-6. I thought that they would have a chance down in Florida, but I thought they'd go lose down there and you'd be sitting here 2-7. But that's not the case. So new life here. And, it's there's only a small segment of the Razorback fan base that's upset, and that was the ones who had decided they wanted Sam Pittman gone. And I'm sorry, it's not going to happen now. And it's not because that they won one game. It's not because they won down at the Swamp for the first time. It's because nobody was going to pay the buyout. The university wasn't going to pay it. None of the boosters should run up and pay it, and they all feel like they should get one more year. Now next year, all bets are off.
Yeah, and a losing streak is like being in some country where they have the monsoon season and it just rains all day, every day for weeks on end.
I was going to go loveless marriage, but
yes,
I had to deal with that, So, but I'm guessing that's what it's like.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another one. We had this character, J. Rodney Scroggins Jr. III, got buck naked and was on a fast up on a billboard in Levesque, Arkansas, on Highway 64 between Parkin and Wynn. And he said, "I ain't coming down till the Hogs win a conference game." And he was up there for a while, but he's down. But it changes everything. I mean, and it's right before you get to JB's Steakhouse. I recommend it if you're on 64, right when you go up over the ridge going in to Wynn. JB's Steakhouse.
Just don't look up, Ethel. Just don't look up, Ethel.
Yeah, don't look up, Ethel. But it was too late. She'd already been streaked. But, man, you break the losing streak, and it just changes everything. It's like being in sales and going days without someone saying yes. Not one person says yes. That's all that it takes. But that question here, Sean in Memphis, Arkansas is a new team. Hogs will win out. And you mentioned they got Auburn. Auburn is an interesting team. They've got one quarterback that they're playing now, and that's been better. But, they had a lot of opportunities to put a lot of points on Vanderbilt, but that's good. Your fans, you want to come out of a win wanting more. Appreciate it, but that's it. But Kenny Guyton, let's talk about him and what he did immediately that was different from what Dan Enos had been doing.
Well, first of all, they went up tempo. That needed to happen. They ran the plays that they ran successful in practice.
Yeah. Okay.
That's been a big thing. Coach Pittman's mentioned that at least 3 times now. It clearly was a deal. He probably had been ready to pull this trigger for a while, but because he waited till that open date, and then the rock bottom thing with Mississippi State, 7-3 loss at home, 200 yards total offense. I swear I got the final stat sheet, and I said, "You sure this is not halftime?" Because Mississippi State had like 220 total offense. Arkansas had 200. Yeah, there was a joy throughout the team. And I think that was a big thing. But tempo, getting him out of the pocket, he still got hit too much. Although in the spirit of Halloween, they're late in the ball game. He gave that one defender a "witch, please get off me." When he ran it and get fired up his team, that he was a leader this week for sure. Fired up his team. Now, all that being said, things are not fixed. They got one thing fixed, and that was losing close games. They scored 39 points, which was, obviously they're high. But 2 weeks ago, I think we would say that Auburn and Arkansas were maybe, you got to throw Texas A&M in there as well, the two more disappointing teams that you thought would be better. And they were not having good years. Now, 2 weeks later, Arkansas really rolled over bye week. and then went to Florida and won. Auburn has had put two pretty good efforts together. Now this is, two teams that, don't have to play an 11 a.m. game on the Discovery Channel. They're playing 3 p.m. on the SEC network, which, is a pretty good time slot.
Yeah.
And, you're excited about it again, but make no mistake, the problems here are not fixed overall. They just were able to work out a few. Everybody feels good. They're going to play better this week because they feel good about themselves. They had been feeling bad about themselves for quite a while.
Yeah, and it's really cool because we're on the web and YouTube and all this. You get a lot of questions from viewers and listeners. James in West Memphis: Hogs need to recruit offensive linemen and quarterbacks. And I know Otis Kirk and some of the other folks on the Hogville.net staff focus more on recruiting, but you see it. And before the season, you said you thought there were 60 players. Then you revised that figure, which you certainly have the right to do, because sometimes I was talking to an SEC assistant coach last night anonymously, and one thing he told me was, I used to hate it when they'd say, oh, he's got all this potential. He goes, potential is a word for something you have that you've never used. And why haven't you used it? And it drives coaches crazy. But break the team down, because, last year, 1 through 44, you were happy. It was that 45 to 85. You got up to 60, then it went down. Looking back now, where's that number of players that Arkansas has that could play, really for every team?
Well, I'd bump it up a few more after last week's win. Just not being an immediate guy, but still there were some plays that were being made. They really hit well in the transfer portal. I think we can say now. James in West Memphis' question: Hogs need to recruit O-line and quarterbacks. Now, I disagree on half of that. I think they're lined up at quarterback. I don't think a lot of people know that KJ Jefferson has one more year if he wants it. And he was not going to use it. There was no way he was going to use it with Danny Enos around here. That is clear from some people I talked to. There is a possibility of him using it now, especially if Kenny Guyton or somebody else gets the offense coordinator job that he likes. Let's be honest. This year has not been great for his pro potential. Now, it's tough to stay in college, as many years as he would have been in now if he plays another year. But that's more of a possibility now. Then you've got Jacoby Criswell lined up there, right behind him. You've got Mekhi Singleton, who it was the young freshman they recruited. They got another KJ coming, KJ Jackson, one of the great high school quarterbacks out there that got coming there. So they're going to be okay quarterbacks. Now, offensive line, I think you're going to have to dive into that transfer portal and load up on a few, because while you've got talent and as you said, potential there, as we go back to your definition of potential, they've got to get some immediate help to come in, because Bo Limmer's, going to be out. They're going to be graduating a few people. I don't feel comfortable with everybody they have coming in. So I'm sure they'll attack that in the transfer portal. All that being said, all the other spots I feel pretty solid about. But you're going to have to re-recruit, some defensive line guys. There's a couple of defensive line guys who will have an extra year, will be back. There's a couple that's going to be going away. So I bet they go, since you don't have a limit on how many you can, bring in a year now. It just has to be 85 or under. I bet they go get them several offensive and defensive linemen in the portal. Not so much skill players, but in the trenches where we know that should be the thing that they're really good at here, but hadn't been for the most part of the year.
Yeah. Well, you always want to recruit to fill your needs. And, I'm looking at some of these comments, and I like this one here. Festus. Yeah, right. In Fort Smith, hope is the best thing you can give a fan base. Well, if you think about this narrative, KJ Jefferson announces he's coming back for an 11th year at Arkansas. And Kenny Guyton is going to be the offensive coordinator. Let's say the Hogs win out. How fired up will that fan base be in the state of Arkansas and Hogs everywhere? Because there are Hogs everywhere. I mean, Memphis, there are a lot of Hogs. There are a lot of them in Parkin. They're everywhere.
If they went out, amazingly, they would go to a bowl. And again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I mean, I'm not sure they'll win this weekend. Arkansas's favored by a couple up here, but it's mostly because they're the home team. I think these two teams are pretty even in terms of talent and where they've been this year. It's certainly Missouri, I think is a better team than Arkansas, a better program than Arkansas has been. People don't want to hear that, but Missouri has dominated that series just like Texas A&M has dominated the series against Arkansas. Texas A&M can't beat some other folks, but they can beat Arkansas. And Missouri, has Eli is an interesting fellow. He's a different bird. He used to coach just down the street from me here at Springdale High. Now he's doing a great job with Missouri, but I do think that you shouldn't go overboard, but you should be happy about winning. Winning's cool. I don't know any other way to say it, but winning is cool.
It is. And my wife, Audrey, we were at the Auburn Vanderbilt game Saturday in the Skinner box, which is what she calls the retrofitted, very small and very difficult to get in and out of stadium there at Vanderbilt. B.F. Skinner, the behavioral psychologist who put the mice in the little boxes. And she's like, God, Rob, you are horrible. You're wanting more and more. You're winning. You won the game. I'm like, well, I understand, but I'm looking at, 2 or 3 other opportunities you had to get more points. And you always are saying, how's that going to translate out against a better team? But you're right. Winning is cool and attitude is everything. I love a magnet I saw on a house one time said, I don't need your attitude. I already have my own, but it makes practice and everything a lot more fun. But
I will tell you that the 3 words the 3 words, if you use them, you've already lost the argument. Is I understand, but
yes,
you've already lost the argument. Just punt on 3rd down. You've already lost the argument. Phrase your words better.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then Nick Saban talked about the conversation that he has with NFL scouts and, people evaluating players if they're going to draft them. There's the and conversation. Dudley Dawson is he's as good a linebacker as I've ever coached or seen here at Alabama. And he's always at practice early. He never misses mass. He never misses class. And he always opens the door for ladies. He stands up when they come to the table. He stands up when they leave. But he has a habit of cussing at coaches and stuff, something like that. It's the but part. He said that'll keep you out of the NFL. And I think I just see like KJ Jefferson. He did not look happy in that old offense. And golly, he comes back. He could have gone to other schools. Who the hell can blame him? But he's getting NIL money and all, but he still wants to win.
There were several nice offers out there from other NIL offers out there from other teams. That's one of the things that I give him a pass on a few things because he's taken hits all year and he came back when he didn't have to.
Yeah.
Certainly has he had the year he wanted to? No. But, there are a lot of factors that go into that. And I think he wants to finish well. The only thing, if he finishes well, maybe he goes on, instead of taking an extra year. But, I want to go back to that small segment that was upset that Arkansas won because, Coach Pittman would still be around. I'll never understand that mentality. I've been a Dallas Cowboys fan forever. They wear me out in terms of end of ball games and seasons and playoffs and all that. But I remain steadfast. I don't root for the Dallas to win, so Mike McCarthy will go on somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, would I, if that's the inevitable after that happens? Yes. But do you think I wasn't on the edge of my seat screaming as Dallas drove down the field? I wasn't thinking, Mike McCarthy, please lose, and so we can get you out of there. No, It was, let's win a ball game. I just don't understand that mentality. But I tried, Petra, my wife, and I tried to have a talk about this the other day. I think there are some people out there. I don't spend a lot of time with them who just are not happy unless they're unhappy and get something to gripe about.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think being negative gives people power. That's how they think. Watching the news ain't a damn thing you can do about it. Okay. Turn it on. I don't care if it's Fox News, One America News, CBS, whatever. First off,
News Nation, since they pay me.
yeah. But I'm saying, you and I both growing up, we knew the name of the anchor on all the evening newscasts. Nobody today, for the most part, even knows who they are. And it's because like a bomb that went off and it just splattered everything in every direction. There's hundreds of news channels you can go to, and all they do, they're paid actors, like in a Greek tragedy. Sports, on the other hand, you can go to hogville.net. You can read great content, and you said something a few weeks ago that resonates to this moment. You said, I cover the University of Arkansas, but I cannot allow myself to be taken in emotionally when I cover the University of Arkansas. Off the field. Yeah, sure. Everybody likes Sam Pittman, but I've got to evaluate him as a coach, the other players, the coaches, and everybody like that. I respect that.
Yeah,
and that's why you're so good.
I know people don't understand it, but I don't care whether they win or lose. I did early on in my career because I graduated from the University of Arkansas. I was, on Coach Sutton, Coach Richardson's staff. And so it took a little bit, but in this business, you can't worry about being liked. You can't worry about, having your press pass pulled, which is a thing people throw out there. Like nobody's ever every coach at this university ever has been upset with me about something over 40 years. I mean, that's just part of being around forever. But we've always talked it out, and they've explained their side, and I've explained mine. But I don't care about being liked. I don't care if they win or lose. I will admit, though, I heard my wife talking to someone about this last week. She said he doesn't care whether they win or lose, but I think he's happier if he didn't have to have to listen to all the fans griping. I will admit to that.
Yeah, that's true, because when you and Jason Caldwell will be on just in a minute. Both of y'all are professionals. I mean, and you know what? Fans love to, and the Dr. Pepper commercial with Brian Bosworth is the best. The first game, they're blowing stuff up and burning their gear. And he goes, "Hey, it's just the first play, folks." And what calms me down when I'm watching a game is pick a number or two on your team of a player, a defensive player and an offensive player who starts, obviously. And pretend, what if I were that person? Would I go to the huddle? Would I go back to the sidelines saying the stuff that I'm saying watching this game on the color TV? No, you wouldn't. And if you did, you'd probably get your ass kicked by your teammates. And you should. And I know sometimes we say some terrible things, but just pretend that you are a player on that field. I go back to what Coach Dye would say. He stood in the backfield at practice to watch the body language of the quarterbacks. He said, my quarterbacks were not allowed to have a negative thought. Now, he liked some tough ones. And if I'm going to play on a football team, Dudley, growing up in the country, I want a guy like Jeff Berger. Hey, if I get in a fight at Crystal at 3 a.m, that's who I want. That's who I want leading my team.
You sound like that's happened before.
No, but when we were at Auburn, Jeff had an encounter, and everybody knows about it. But I mean, he's from Cedartown, Georgia. But the term "he's a winner," expand on that when you talk about a player. You say he's a winner, because I have my definition, but I want to hear yours as you broadcast live from the Pebble Beach T-Ball Stadium. And did you see Shoney's question from Valdosta? Is Heber Springs near Pebble Beach?
Yes.
Let me just yes, it is. But carry on.
It's the winner to me, and obviously I was fortunate enough, and I talk about Newport a lot, and Coach Bill Keedy and Coach Bill Ozier, my coaches. We were very successful, in my high school career, not because of me, but I was along for the ride. But so I never really had to deal with much adversity and losing and all that kind of stuff. But even if I had, I think I would have stayed a winner, because I would have stayed in there fighting, would have tried to encourage teammates, that sort of thing. Yes. Now, absolutely yes. Does being a winner encapsulate winning games and all that. But I think there are a lot of different definitions you can use. Mine would be that you stayed in the fight, that you didn't give up, that you overcame adversity. And it might not be on the football field or the basketball court immediately, but it will help you down the line.
Winner is just somebody that when other people around them are struggling, he helps lift them up and finds ways to get them to believe, okay, it's worth the fight. But yeah, and then we talk about potential. When you got a lot of talented players on a roster that aren't playing up to what they are capable of, that's not good either. Dave Cody out in Bellingham, Washington. Arkansas used to have a great offensive line. Did they lose their offensive line coach? Dave's background, 35 years, sports anchor, Channel 7 out in Austin, Texas, lives up in Bellingham, Washington now, scratch golfer, had an older brother who's still, I guess Bill is probably in his late 70s, All-American defensive linebacker at Auburn in the late 60s, played with the Saints for a long time, but knows his football, I'm telling you. But what about that? Cody Kennedy's there.
Technically,
what do you think is going to happen? Yeah.
Technically, when Coach Pittman first arrived here, Brad Davis was his offensive line coach. He's now the offensive line coach at LSU. Went there a couple of years ago. So technically, they did lose their offensive line coach. And at that point, Cody Kennedy, who's the current offensive line coach, was the tight end coach. He had been an assistant to Sam Pittman at Georgia, and Coach Pittman brought him along. And then from when Brad Davis left to go to LSU, Cody Kennedy was upped to the offensive line coach, moved from tight end. Which, by the way, I want to have a thought about Arkansas's tight ends before we get off here. But they've not had a great year in offensive line. Obviously, they looked better last weekend. They ran the place that they practiced, and again, I think it's a good deal to do. But he was not the intended offensive line coach. He's a mentor, a protege. But the thing is, they've not looked great this year, but they looked really good the previous 2 years when he was the offensive line coach. So it's hard to say he forgot how to the easiest thing, and it may not be true, but the easiest thing is just to lay it all at the feet of Dan Enos.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be mean. I don't worry about who likes me, and I'm sure he doesn't now because I was one of the many writers that got blocked by him on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. But it just didn't work out, on the field, off the field. I wish everybody well, but it was an experiment that failed miserably. Well,
and you know what's crazy? I thought it would be good because I looked at what he had done at Arkansas before and what he had done at Alabama. So, look, sometimes I make recommendations on stocks that don't work out, but I do the due diligence on the front end. And I talk about the risk of anything. But interest, that's good. For Sam Pittman, he's a guy that he fits Arkansas. Like I always say, he fits Arkansas like James Arness fit his role in Gunsmoke, and I think it's important to have somebody like that he's also good for those players. I think off the field as well. I think
one thing he made clear last week or the last 2 weeks, because you had the bye week as well, is he was going to stick his head into offensive line coaching a little bit more during the week. And I came out and I wouldn't call it the greatest performance ever, but they looked much better. Again, the system, I think, helped. The tempo helped. But you can't, if you were one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever.
Yeah.
I think that's, a legitimate thing.
It is.
I don't care all your other responsibilities. You should stick your head into that offensive line your room every once in a while. I don't think that you can get away from that mentality, and your people, your players will listen to you because of the street cred that you have.
Yeah, they will. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We'll bring in Jason Caldwell from Auburn Undercover right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne back here with Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. And the one thing real quick, Dudley, before we get in here with Jason, and I want to get some comments. It's cool to have two guys I have a ton of respect for who really know their craft, but also are pros. You ask you all a question, you're going to get it. Let them know how they can keep up with you and all the great work that you do every day of the week. This is not a Monday through Friday career you chose.
I wish. Hogville.net is our website. We cover every Arkansas sport, all 19 of them, men's and women's. The Fearless Friday, they're in the high school playoffs in Arkansas now, so I'm revved up about that. Winter go home. But Jason, good to see you. And Rob, I want to thank you for having two youngsters, two guys just barely,
Yes.
Had any experience on your show. What do we got about, 70 years together, man?
I don't know. It's a long time, man. It's a long time. Good to see you.
You too.
Well, y'all put out, this is the thing that I'm so big on. Both of y'all, I mean, for people that do not get it, how much time that and it's a passion, it's a way of life. But, Mark Murphy, I met Mark in 1981 inside the Auburn Tigers. And that's, for print media, that's the mentor for how you do it. And David Housel and Buddy Davidson, you think about the people you've been influenced by at Arkansas, but y'all are just starting to kick in, not even in your prime yet. I say between the two of you, you got a good 80 years left. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I'm an optimist.
I believe he said 8, Jason. I don't think he said 8.
Yeah. I don't know if I said 80 or not. I'd like to have a view that Dudley has behind him on that screen before it's too late.
Hey, the key is to make the background take the attention off your face.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't do a good job with that.
Well, it's listen, man. College football, it gets better every year. And Jason, we've been talking a lot about Arkansas, some about the Auburn matchup. We're up in Clarksville at the mother-in-law's. We went to that Auburn game Saturday at the Skinner Box at Nashville.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Auburn, where they are right now. Got a lot of questions coming in here right now, and kind of let you and Dudley have at it. I mean, just y'all talk, because my job is to bring on the best guests, which I've got 2 of them, and let y'all run with the ball.
Yeah. No, I mean, going into a game Saturday, I mean, we're 10, 11 weeks into the season, and I honestly don't know what to expect Saturday. I mean, Dudley's probably in the same boat. I mean, you have 2 teams that are kind of still, I mean, it's weird to say, kind of feeling themselves out. Arkansas for a different reason when you switch coordinators and kind of go back to kind of your bread and butter of what you've been doing the last couple of years. For Auburn, you're just now starting to do what your head coach and offensive coordinator do in terms of using a little tempo and spreading the field. The only thing I expect is I expect it to be a game that goes down to the fourth quarter and somebody makes a play or two, or somebody makes a mistake, and that's the difference in the game. And I think that's where these 2 teams are right now. Obviously, for Auburn, you have one big focus. I mean, you look at it and you go, KJ Jefferson is the guy you have to slow down if you're Auburn, because if he gets out there and starts running the ball and doing those things, it opens up the entire game. So that's going to be fun. Then on the other side, you got Travis Williams that is going to be extra motivated this week to have that defense humming against Auburn. So it's going to be a fun game. And they're usually kind of, it's not Auburn LSU, but Auburn Arkansas games can get a little bit crazy, and so we'll see what happens.
Well, Jason, I was saying earlier that 2 weeks ago, when both these teams were not living up to their what I think is their talent building or whatever, this game would have been 11 a.m. on the Discovery Channel, not 3 p.m.
Yeah.
I guess the SEC network. Both teams have reasons to feel better about themselves. As you said, I think that part of it's because Auburn has, at least last week, said we're going to run with this quarterback. Peyton Thorner, we're going to just run him, let him do it, and I think it worked out. Obviously, they got a really good running game that flourished. And Arkansas, we talk about the up tempo, and that certainly was the case, and just not standing around staring at Dan Enos, wondering why he's the offensive coordinator, the offensive player, and shaking their head, as KJ did several times. I think the fact that they've been able to just have some confidence in themselves makes this a more interesting game. And at least, fans are still griping and stuff, but at least both teams have shown hope, in these last couple of weeks. Arkansas took out just destroyed and then was able to go to Florida and win. So they're feeling pretty good about this. But I'm looking forward to it. Coach Freeze came here last year, and I will always remember that my son got married on the day that the Liberty beat Arkansas 21-19 here, and they were ready to run Sam Pittman out of town that day.
Yeah, Dudley, you mentioned confidence. It's something I've written about now twice each of the last 2 weeks, and it's like the golfer, that there's nothing better for a golfer than seeing a couple of putts drop, and it's the same thing for football. You go out and make a couple of plays on offense, and there's nothing better. You can scheme all you want to. You can do all these things you want to. But if you don't see some success, it's hard to keep it going. And for the first time, Auburn's had some success the last couple of weeks in making a few big plays. I went back and looked, and they've got 6 50-yard plays this season, and 4 of them have come the last 2 weeks. Now, that also comes with Peyton Thorne he got every rep last week, and you settle on a quarterback, kind of getting back to what you're doing. But a lot of it's just, hey, actually started to make it happen, and you get a little bit of a feel for making it happen again.
Yeah, and using that same analogy, I'm not even going to go with Arkansas making putts. They kept hitting drives into the sand trap or the water, not even giving themselves a chance, and then rallying a couple times, being within one score, that sort of thing. But yeah, it is about confidence. And we were talking earlier, I think we came on, I don't care whether they win or lose, but my wife is right. It's better. It's a better profession when everybody's not sitting around griping all the time. If they're having legitimate discussions.
Yes.
I got a question for both of y'all. Start with Jason. Are y'all fans of the running clock this year in college football?
Quite honestly, after the first couple of weeks, I haven't really paid much attention to it at all. Yeah. The only time I pay attention to things right now is when, like Saturday, that we had a timeout, a third down call, a punt, and another timeout. So basically, there was 2 plays run, and there was 8 minutes of commercial time sandwiching those in between. It hadn't really impacted me other than that, because the games aren't shorter. And the feel of the game when you're going, it doesn't. But it absolutely, those timeouts and those things are more of an impact for me than the actual clock itself.
I think the game is shorter, but not the broadcast.
Correct.
Because there's more commercials and all that. What I would say is I haven't even hardly noticed it at all. What I would say is that Saturday at Florida, I learned about runoffs and
yeah.
And that sort of thing, dudes flying into the pile and the referee's not been it would have been an unbelievable loss if Arkansas had lost because they didn't get to substitute and they get the ball down and all that. But I think that unlike a couple of other years down in Florida, ball didn't lie. In terms of, and I feel sorry for the kid that you missed the field goal for Florida, but that wasn't supposed to work. That wasn't supposed to go through after that cluster that happened.
Yeah. Got another one here for you, Jason, real quick. Waller in Tuscaloosa. Any updates on Tigers recruiting? And I know Burnett, the running back out of Andalusia, says he's going to open his recruitment back up. And we talked a minute in the first segment. KJ Jefferson can come back next year if he wants to for an 11th year at Arkansas. Jarquez Hunter, man, he's on fire lately. You think maybe he feels like, well, where would I be on the depth chart?
I definitely think that you start looking at it, and it's the hard part right now. And 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you knew exactly what the roster was going to look like after a year. Coaches knew exactly what they needed to replace it, all those things. You look at Auburn right now, and you've got, you think about, okay, you got a bunch of these senior tight ends. Well, every one of them can come back, and they might all come back. And so you start thinking, okay, from a number standpoint, what do you need? We're better off going to get a transfer. It's crazy. It really is. And we're sitting here the second week of November, and I would guess most every staff in this country is going, okay, I have an idea of what we need here in a month, but I'm not quite sure if it's 100% because you don't know who's coming back on your own team. You mentioned Jarquez Hunter. Is he, as a running back, does he say, you know what? I'm probably not going to be a first-round draft choice anyway. I'm going to go ahead and leave. You don't know about those. There's just so many unknowns. But, yeah, I think you look at Auburn's running back depth room, it had an impact there. I think for Auburn, you start going, okay, what do we need in certain spots? It's a numbers game, and you can get to 85, and that's going to be a big deal. But for Auburn, you're looking, and there's still so many possibilities out there. When you look at guys that are committed elsewhere that are still visiting, Emmanuel Waller, 5-star pass rusher, is committed to Florida. Obviously, Cam Coleman, 5-star wide receiver, committed to Texas A&M, but right down the road. Ryan Williams, does he reclassify in 2024? If he does, Auburn, I think Auburn is right there, but Jeremiah Beeman, pass rusher from Birmingham, is committed to Alabama. All these guys, Auburn is still kind of in the mix with. A lot of what happens from the next month will depend on if they can get a couple of those guys in place, and then you might maybe pick a transfer portal guy or two. So there's still a whole lot in there.
All you need to know about the transfer portal is I covered a game earlier this year between BYU and Arkansas, and there were 98 people who were not on the roster the previous year when Arkansas played BYU. 98 different faces. Now, you used to could only have 50 total, when you put the two teams together, but 98 was just shocking, but I think was a very good number to point out that, yeah, I'm going to go in here and tell you there's going to be 60 good players to start the year. Yeah, I'm going to tell you Arkansas's going to have a good year. But I really didn't know because there were 38 new people here.
Yeah, you don't know the rosters. Same thing shows up in basketball. It's not as numerous, but you look at every basketball team right now, and there's 13 scholarship guys. A lot of teams only have 12, and probably 5 or 6 of those guys are new every year right now.
Or in Arkansas, 9.
Yeah, like you look, and it's every year. It's half a roster or more. Baseball is the same way. It's just kind of what it is, and it takes you a while to figure out kind of the temperature of a team, the chemistry of a team, the personality of a team. Heck, in football, it's taken 10, 11 weeks.
98, that is an unbelievable number. And looking at this Auburn-Arkansas matchup, Jason, Auburn's gone up there to Fayetteville. The last time they were up there was in 21, won the game like 38-23. It's 3:00 game. 11 o'clock, you like that as a visiting team. Get your thoughts and then throw it to Dudley. But what are a couple of things that Auburn has to be able to do on the road against Arkansas? Because if you let that crowd of 80,000 start feeling good, you're right. It can get crazy in a hurry.
Yeah. I think like any road game, early success is always vital. I think that's important. Auburn's done a fairly good job of not turning it over. Saw a big one on Saturday, pick 6. Didn't really have an impact on that game because Auburn was able to come out and have a couple of those scores early in the second half. But for Auburn, it's been pretty obvious this year. You go try to get off to a good start and run the football. Those are things that this team has to be able to do because, if you get in third and long situations like most offenses, you're just not very good. This offense is beyond not good on 3rd and long situations. And so staying ahead of the chains and getting off to a good start, probably the 2 biggest keys for Auburn Saturday.
Dudley?
I think Auburn's going to come here, and I think they're going to play well. But I do think it would have been better for them if Arkansas had lost to Florida and this game had been at 11 a.m. 3 p.m. and a crowd that suddenly has a little hope will be a bit more spirited, as they say. I understand there are these things called pregame tailgates. I've never participated, got to participate in one. I've walked by them and said hi. But I have a job to do, so I can't participate in some of the activities that they do in these pregame tailgates. But I'm sure that the crowd's going to be better than it would have been, if they were coming, a 7-game losing streak. If Enos was still the offensive coordinator, and if they hadn't at least got some hope at Florida. So I think, I think it's going to be a good game. I agree with Jason. It's going to go down probably to the 4th quarter. And unlike two teams who you could say maybe that are at the top of the college football world right now, who's going to play better? I think he's right in that it's who makes the fewest mistakes.
Yeah, it is. Well, it was funny. Right before the season, we had Coach Houston Nutt on the show, and he said, I'm not doing CBS this year. I'm going to take off. He goes, I'm going to go see my grandsons play high school football and just go to games. He goes, but I've never been to a tailgate. He said the same thing, both of y'all. And,
I would like to point out one thing about that. That was 2 different things. He's going to go see his grandsons, and he was going to go watch high school football because his grandsons are small. They're not playing yet. Yeah, you're right. That's what he said. But man, he's a lot of fun to have on the show. And I communicate with Tim Horton, helped me connect with him, and he's a lot of fun. Jason, both of y'all, you have incredible jobs, and it's not unusual for you to get up at 4 or 5 on a game day, get on the road. You both have kids and you love them more than anything in the world. And that's obvious when I communicate with y'all, because that always comes first, and your priorities, if it's a Bible study or whatever, that stuff matters. Jason, for the average person out there, they look at a story that you write, and you got to protect your sources and all, whatever. But how much goes into, say, a story that might take a person 5 minutes to read? I would say 6, 8, 10 hours.
It just depends. Sometimes it can take a whole lot longer than that. Sometimes it's the short window. That's the thing is that you're right when you mentioned coming on that this and this is the message for the people that are in college or people getting ready to go to college, and you figure out what you want to do. This is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job.
Yeah,
it's just not the way it is. It shouldn't be. It can be for some, but it shouldn't be. It's all the time, late nights, early mornings, everything in between, and all of that goes into stories and message board post, whatever it is. It's just part of the job, and the more people you talk to, hopefully, the better off you are and the better job you do.
Yeah, I feel like I should have Petra, my wife, take this question. She knew what she was getting into personality-wise and stuff with me. I don't think she knew what she was getting into in terms of, work and all that. I do think that she has come to the conclusion that if I say it's an hour, that's really 2 hours.
Yes.
30 minutes. We've got to the point now where I say I'm copy editing. That means I'm winding it down. I'm putting it in the system, but she knows that that's not 10 minutes. She's a great woman, and she's learned a whole new way to tell time as we do in this job.
Yeah. And it is, I'm staying up here a couple extra days at the mother-in-law's, getting some stuff done. I needed to get back, but, after what I put Audrey through with, she gets up, helps with this show, these road trips. I try to keep the conversations on those 6, 8, 10 hour road trips. She knows a lot about football. I can tell you that, and all these sports. But Jason, what's really cool is we had the intern, William Halliday, on the show Monday morning, I just put him on with different writers, and both of y'all, and you've talked with Troupe Keeter, these young writers, we try to impress upon them that the responsibility that you have. And, it's so easy to get caught up in all the negativity and all the stuff going on. But what's incredible about like Auburn Undercover, and he's with hogville.net, the amount of content and the team that y'all have put together. I mean, I'm up here, eating dinner at the, with my brother-in-law, and got the Auburn game in my ears, the basketball game last night. Who covered that? I mean, this is the best it's ever been in terms of being able to follow your team, Jason.
Yeah, Nathan did a good job of that. Obviously wasn't there because we turned around and go to Arkansas, and then Auburn goes to play basketball in Brooklyn next week. So it's just kind of this crazy week or so. This is the hard. I'll say this is one of the hardest times of the year when you people ask me, in September, October, they go, "What's it like?" I was like, "This is the easiest time of the year."
Yeah,
the easiest time of the year is when it's just football and there's nothing else going on. This time of crossover and spring are the most difficult times of the year when you have everything going on at once. But yeah, Dudley, I remember Dudley and Clay, and, when there was just a couple of guys, and now the good thing is that we do have more people involved. And so it does actually give you a chance to take a breath every once in a while, but good times, looking forward to it. Yeah, you're right. Lots of stuff going on. It's signing day today. I've got a baseball preview story up already. Yeah. Auburn expected to sign Todd Pettiford, 5-star guard, and then have a chance to add another 4-star forward today. So got all that going on as well. And then, football game coming up this weekend. So I'll be heading to Tulsa Friday, and then coming over on Saturday morning. So
yeah,
whether it's Troupe or any other young writers who are thinking about getting into the profession, I have a lot of talks with them. You better love it. And I grew up on a farm, so there was not a work ethic problem. That was built into me. But you better love it. You better be ready to work, and you can't care whether somebody thinks you suck.
Yeah.
Or your ideas suck. And I still have my son's now, one of my sons is now 32, and he used to get a kick, and I don't think kick's the right word, but we would be out eating and somebody would come up, and basically they would blame the fact that Arkansas had lost a sporting event on me because I had talked to them about the ones they had coming in, and that they always, it seems like they always thought I said that it was a 5-star and was going to change the program. I never said that, but somehow translating to be a good player for them got to their ear hole, and it was fine. So he still does that these days. When Arkansas loses, he'll call everyone once and say, "You doing okay?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he said, "Well, Arkansas lost, so I knew it was your fault."
Yeah, and that's it. And the other thing is it's funny how, I grew up, following Auburn games, grew up getting inside the Auburn Tigers, coming to school, going to games. But in this job, the longer you do it, the more removed from it you get, because it becomes a job. And obviously, it's important for Auburn and Arkansas, for them to win and have good seasons, do those things. But you can't get caught up in the personal side of it. That's the part of it that I think, it's taken almost 25 years, but people understand now that, it is my profession and it's what I do. And so, I don't take those losses as personal as I did when I was, 16 years old.
Yeah. And the other thing is that as you work with so many people, like in my role here with Sidelines, we cover the SEC, and your favorite team is our motto. We cover college sports in the South like kudzu and cotton without the humidity. But that's the thing, is you're dealing with people of all these different schools. And I know fans of schools all over the country. That makes it a lot of fun. It's just the relationships you get to have with people, and you get their perspective, and you look at it a lot differently. Be like if you were the son of a coach, that you may go to 6 different schools when your dad was coaching. And it's like military brats, 2 years here, 2 years there. It's tough to get close to people. But with this, it's the opposite. Dudley has, been covering Arkansas for a long time. You, Jason, covering Auburn for a long time. But I think where I see TV, Jason, ESPN, by the way, somebody put a good question up on here. I I got to find this talking about, what they try to do. Yeah, this is great. Walter in Camp Hill, Alabama, because of the internet and YouTube, college football needs to put the fans first. By the way, who dresses these guys on ESPN? I got to say, sometimes my wife will offer a suggestion. Now that looks good or that doesn't look good, but golly, some of these clam diggers, these guys wear these little skinny jeans and stuff. Man, I would have had my butt kicked if I had gone out of the house looking like that, but that's another story. Jason, you get ready for a game like this weekend. There are going to be people saying Auburn's got to win. Same thing with Arkansas. Bowl eligibility, you get an extra 20 days of practice. That alone makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
It does. It does be important when you're talking about first year of a program. Got some young guys that have played a big role for this team. Other young guys that haven't gotten as much playing time because you had to go to the transfer portal to bring some experience in on the offensive line, defensive line, it's wide receiver spots. Having that extra time be important for them, be important for a guy like Holden Gunter, who's a guy that's continued to improve, progress at quarterback. I think probably now more in the 2 role for this team if they had to kind of turn the offense over to another guy. So all those would be really important for a team, especially first-year coach. It's important for any team, but I think in year number 1, it's invaluable to get that extra time. And, you're also going to have recruits. Now these guys sign early, and you can have some of those guys come in and start to practice and get that head start on even the spring, which is a big deal as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We all think about a bowl, going to a bowl as reward for the season that you had. And I guess it is. But to me, the 20 practices or however many you end up using, because if you play in too early a bowl, you can't get 20 practices in. I always think that it is pre-spring practice.
Yep.
You basically have 2 spring practices if you're able to get to a bowl. And that would be big for a variety of reasons. Number one, because if you won 4 games to end the season, people would quit saying you suck. They would just say you weren't good. Something along those lines. And also you would get the opportunity, a few things that Jason said there, but you'd also get the opportunity to kids who have been over on that scout team all year and haven't seen the light of day. You would get the chance to get them some work and, take a, kind of a thing about what you think is going to go on. The only problem with that is that's also the time you jump into the transfer portal. So you never know who's going to show up in practice.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Jason, listen, both of y'all, man, this has been a lot of fun. That game Saturday, 3:00, it's going to be both teams. There's a lot on the line. Every game has a storyline. This is both teams fighting for bowl eligibility. And people, if you've been to the, college football playoff, then the next year you're fighting to be 500. I mean, hey, that can happen. 2 years after national championship, Auburn was struggling. And then the next year they played for it again. But all these games matter. And Jason, let people know, I know we're at the top of the hour, how they can follow you, keep up with all the great work you're doing. And it is, to me, I love going on all these websites, but I want our fans, our listeners, our viewers to support all of y'all because they are investing in the future of journalism. If you want great coverage, you've got to have your Jason Caldwells and your Dudley Dawsons, or you're not going to know a damn thing.
Yeah, you can find us at auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network there. And I think for those who haven't signed up before, there's a signing day special, that early signing period special for folks who haven't been a subscriber. So you can check us out there. And also follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, at ITATJason.
Dudley, both of y'all, the bottom line thing that I found out is fans sometimes get a little carried away. And I'm trying to get Brian Bosworth on the show to get him to talk about that commercial for Dr. Pepper. But that might be the best one. Hey, it's just the first play of the game. Right. So it's a lot of fun. Jason, thank you so much for being on with us. Dudley, as well. Great stuff. And I know, y'all have got a lot going on, but
you can have quite a fun weekend up here. 10:30 a.m. women's basketball game on Friday morning, where there'll be 7,200 elementary school kids. So if you've never had that experience, buy you some earplugs, some ibuprofen, be ready to come for that. And you got men's basketball Friday night, and then Auburn and Auburn in Arkansas at 3:00 on Saturday. And then Saturday night, you can go down to Dixon Street and help the Northwest Arkansas out, the merchants down there. And so you can have a great weekend if you want to up here. But just remember, as Baker Mayfield said, Dixon Street will get you.
Yeah. And also, we are only a mere 240 hours away from the start of duck season in Arkansas. But I digress. But anyway, thank y'all both so much. We'll take a quick commercial break. Be right back for hour number 2 on Wednesday's edition of Sidelines.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you on this Wednesday morning, and we are talking a lot of college football. Will Gunter is going to join us here in just a minute from over in Columbia, South Carolina, at the game. And he is, I'll tell you one thing, he covers the Gamecocks, and he knows what he's talking about. He knows college basketball, has a real good pulse on the big picture of college athletics. And I'm looking here right now at the rankings, the CFP rankings. And I want to look at, it doesn't matter right now where people are ranked. I mean, you've got, Ohio State, sure, they're number 1 right now. But I want to look at this list here. November 7th rankings. Ohio State, number 1. Georgia, number 2. Michigan, number 3. Florida State Seminoles and Chief Osceola aboard Renegade as he comes out to midfield at Doak S. Campbell Stadium and throws down that flaming spear. And here come the Seminoles. Washington, number 5. Number 6, Oregon. Number 7, Texas. And you know what's funny? The reason they're doing well this year, they're 8-1. Well, the Big 12 is not that strong, but they're not running around saying they're back, because they're not. They're not back yet. They'll be back when they bring home a championship. Okay, number 8, Alabama. Number 9, Ole Miss. Number 10, Penn State. Number 11, Louisville. Number 12, Oregon State. Number 13, Tennessee. 14, Missouri. 13 and 14, Tennessee and Missouri will square off in Columbia Saturday. Number 15, Oklahoma State, fresh off a 27-24 victory over Oklahoma in the last rendition for a while of Bedlam. Wow. Number 16, Will Gunter, is Kansas. Number 17, Oklahoma. Number 18, Utah. Number 19, LSU at 6-3. LSU's given up 145 points in their 3 losses to LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. That's 48.34 points per game. And they're still ranked. Number 20, Notre Dame at 7-3. How good is Notre Dame? I don't know. Not as good as I thought they were. Here's a surprise. Number 21, Arizona at 6-3. Number 22, Iowa at 7-2. They've got a really good bullpen, Will. Not much of an offense, but they got some good relief pitchers over there. Number 22, Tulane, 8-1. Number 24, North Carolina, 7-2. Number 25, Kansas State at 6-3. Will, 2 teams that are not ranked, Auburn and South Carolina. You cover the Gamecocks. Let's talk about this season, where things started going downhill, and what's the future look like? I mean, Spencer Rattler has been in college football for a while. I don't know if he can come back next year or not, but it seems like in his case, he went from a couple of years ago being the number one pick by a lot of people in the draft, the most valuable player, leading Heisman candidate, to where he is now. And where is that?
Yeah, I mean, most projections right now have him probably as a top 75 NFL pick. So you're looking at the first 2 rounds, and then maybe the beginning of the third. And a lot of people that I've talked to think that he'll go to the NFL Combine, and he will interview really well. He's a very personable kid. Obviously, he's got probably as big an arm as anybody in college football, and his accuracy is good. I don't know if he's been able to showcase it with injuries in the offensive line this year. So there seems to be a lot of people that I've talked to that at least seem to think he's going to have a chance to work his way into the second round. And, a couple of people who I've talked to who, you watch what NFL teams do. You saw this with Mitch Trubisky, that they'll get enamored with they don't look at what you did on the football field. They look at what you look like and how far can you throw it and everything at these combines. So I don't think it'd be a shock to see Spencer Rattler get a chance in the NFL with a first round pick. I think that's a long shot a little bit. But certainly the way he's played this year, again, I think the way he's led the team, a lot of things of that nature, you're going to see Spencer Rattler's name, I think, called within the first 65 picks of the NFL draft. And again, when you go to that combine, I mean, we've seen things. What was it? Darius Hayward-Bay from Maryland, who jumped up. South Carolina had a kid named Troy Williamson back in the early 2000s that ended up being a top 10 pick by the Minnesota Vikings, despite pretty much an average football career, college career, but he ran a 4.21 or 4.23. So again, those combine things. But it's been a year for Spencer Rattler. I don't think it's obviously not gone the way he would have liked to on the football field, as they sit here 3-6 and fighting for bowl eligibility right now and an opportunity to go and grab that. But we'll see what happens when you get to February and March. February with the college pro days, and March with the combine, and then when the draft rolls around in April.
You have the luxury of having a great show. It's on statewide all over South Carolina. You hear from the Gamecock fans. You hear from Clemson fans. This is the first time in a while, in a month of Sundays, as they say out in the country, that both teams in South Carolina are struggling. I mean, Clemson, 2015, 2019, that 5-year period, they played for the national championship 4 times. In the last 13 years, there are only 6 schools in America who played for the national championship 2 or more times. They only lost 5 games in that time span. From 1900 to 2007, Clemson only had 12 seasons where they won 10-plus games. In the time that Dabo's been head coach, from halfway through the 08 season when Tommy Bowden was let go, they've had 12 10-plus win seasons under Dabo. Not going to happen this year. South Carolina, the way they ended last year, there was a lot of carryover, people thought. Again, how are they going to fix that?
Well, you're going to have to look, college football evolved. The evolution of college football, and you have to recruit really well. I still think that's the name of the game. I don't think you can just go out and turn a roster over through the transfer portal. I think you have to have the foundation piece of your program be through recruiting. And I will say that's one thing that Dabo Swinney has done a good job of, but their recruiting has fallen off compared to the top 5, top 3 classes they were signing. I mean, they were signing elite wide receivers, guys like T. Higgins that maybe we weren't giving enough credit to, and Justin Ross, and certain wide receivers like that have gone on and were very good players. Obviously, Travis Etienne, Trevor Etienne, who's with Jacksonville. Travis is with Florida. But anyway, they were signing, and then generational quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson were generational quarterbacks, and Clemson has not recruited. They've recruited fine. They've recruited. It's not they've fallen completely off the map. But, there's a drop there when you go from recruiting top 5 classes with elite playmakers to top 10, top 15 classes, or more around 10 or 15. And so that's hurt. They, I think, also could have benefited from backfilling the roster a little bit with talent here or there through the transfer portal. And that's what you're seeing kind of the elite teams do, like Alabama going out and grabbing a Jamar Gibbs or a Jermaine Burton and adding a playmaker or 2, not trying to build your whole roster off of it. And for South Carolina, this is really an interesting year in terms of how much do we put on what was the transition year from Will Muschamp to Shane Beamer, and that particular, again, that class, I think only ended up with about 14 recruits, maybe 13 recruits in it, and then more along the line of 12 or 13 transfer portal kids. And it's year 3. You would like to be relying upon those guys to kind of backfill your roster, and then you put in the talent. South Carolina doesn't have that right now, so it's going to be a combination for South Carolina to continue to hold on to this recruiting class with one of the top 20 players in the country, and Dylan Stewart, with a really good playmaker at tight end, and Michael Smith, who's now going to take a visit to Tennessee next weekend, November the 18th. You've got a solid quarterback in Dante Reno, who down the line, you get him in, let him develop. They've got maybe the best offensive line class in the country with Cam Pringle and Josiah Thompson. Josiah Thompson is a 5-star prospect. You got a few other linemen there. They've got good classes coming in, but you're going to have to go out and also hit in the transfer portal, kind of similar to what Florida State has done this year, to backfill their roster of really talented recruits with some playmakers in Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and obviously Jordan Travis years ago.
Well, you're looking here at recruiting, and here's something from Karen over in Sandy Springs. Gamecocks need help everywhere. Everybody does. I mean, and when we mentioned the figure, look at this one. Dudley Dawson brought this up in the first hour, hogville.net. He said at the Arkansas BYU game this year, September 16th up in Fayetteville, and BYU won the game. 98 new players on the rosters of Arkansas and BYU from last year to this year. And you look at Colorado, almost the entire team brand new. You think it's any accident that despite all the hype of Coach Prime, they're fading like a sunset on a spaghetti Western as the season goes on?
No, I mean, it's hard. I watched it a lot in basketball with the one and dones, and I always said, even though he wasn't winning championships, the job John Calipari did, bringing in essentially, 5 or 6 one and dones every year and trying to gel those pieces together. And it's easier in basketball when you only have 13 scholarships and the way it's designed as opposed to 85 people. And no, I don't think you can build. We're still learning. We're still all watching the hamsters run the race or try and run on the wheel right now and get the idea of what this transfer portal does to your team. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying there is I will say, you look at 1 through about 13 of what you just rattled off, and really about 1 through 13, all of them have a chance to go and make the college football playoff and potentially win it. If we had a 12-team playoff this year, it'd be phenomenal, because I don't know if you can pinpoint who the elite football team is. And I think that's a byproduct of the transfer portal. So that's a good part to it. But obviously, I don't think you can build your roster through the transfer portal. And Dion and Colorado probably will not become bowl eligible. Now, it would still be a great year for them. They improved dramatically from 1-11 last year or whatever, 0-12, 1-11. So, there's a lot of credit to be given to Dion for what he's done out there, but he's still going to have to build through the transfer portal. And for a team like South Carolina, who actually has a lot of really good young players, you're going to have to find some guys to kind of fill those junior, senior positions that either provide depth or make a freshman play harder to hold on to his starting spot. Maybe that person comes in. So the transfer portal, I think, is an interesting situation in college football, because a school like South Carolina can maybe focus on that. I think what I've seen is South Carolina stopped at about 21 recruits this year and just said, all right, we'll take 9 more transfer portal guys to go along with what's a pretty good recruiting class so far.
Well, and I'd say Seamus in Memphis, that's the Gaelic Irish pronunciation. Carolina needs to jump at the opportunity to pass Clemson while they're down. And they do. It's looks obvious what they need to do. Are they in a position to do it with NIL? Because Clemson's got IP tape. That's bringing in 35 to 40 million a year. But NIL is different. It's supposed to be different, but what about this opportunity that Carolina has? Of course, they got to get their own act together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to catch up. I don't know if South Carolina will ever pass Clemson. Clemson's NIL is not very good, not comparatively speaking to the rest of the country. South Carolina's is really in the same boat. They're very similar with NIL money, to be quite honest. And the truth is that can South Carolina catch up to Clemson on the football field? Yes, they won the game last year. But Dabo is still Clemson's still a brand name team. Now they've taken a hit. Next year, you look at it, they open the season with Georgia. I think that's a neutral site game, I believe. I can't remember, but they'll open the season with Georgia. The schedule is going to become just as difficult. The ACC's getting a few teams to play a little bit better. But the bottom line is South Carolina's got to focus on South Carolina. They can't focus while Clemson's down. South Carolina's winning the in-state recruiting battle. This is, Clemson's top recruits are Bryant Westco from Texas and Sammy Browne from Georgia. That's they're not competing with South Carolina for those recruits. The ones they have competed with, South Carolina has won, which is the offensive tackles I talked about here, and then South Carolina's been able to go out of state and get their own. So the opportunity to pass them really isn't there per se because you're not competing for the same recruits at this given time. But both schools, Clemson's got to focus on what the future holds for them, whether it's in the ACC or, whether the ACC is going to be able to provide them enough money to continue to compete on the national basis that they want to. And South Carolina has to find a way now with this brand new SEC coming in, how to compete and what they're supposed to do to take the steps necessary to reach a college football playoff. I don't know if it's all about winning your conference championship anymore as much as it is trying to qualify for the 12-team college football playoff.
Well, you got to ask this question. I mean, you look at in comparison, the Iron Bowl, Auburn and Alabama. Auburn fans are obsessed. They want to beat Alabama. Are Alabama fans obsessed with wanting to beat Auburn or making the college football playoff and winning a national championship? That's a similar story in a lot of states. And it's funny, you're right. Clemson's quarterback, Cade Klubnik, is from Westlake High School or Travis out in Austin. Came in as a 5-star. He damn sure isn't playing like a 5-star. And you mentioned, Justin Ross from Phoenix City Central. They got another great receiver there this year, Cam Coleman, number 1 player in Alabama, committed to A&M. We'll see if he signs there. All right, let's talk about the talent in the state of South Carolina. You mentioned it. Go back to those offensive linemen. That is a sign that's a very positive sign. If Carolina's signing some elite offensive tackles, if you don't have those guys, they're hard to find, aren't they? These 7-on-7 camps, it's all about the skill players.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the SEC is a line of scrimmage league, and South Carolina has for the better part of their 31 years in the league has been deficient on the defensive line and offensive line. And basically what has kind of happened here is South Carolina will have good players here and there. They'll have obviously a Jadeveon Clowney, a Melvin Ingram, a Travian Robertson, a Cliff Matthews, but you can't sustain that. And it's kind of funny. South Carolina this year right now has struggled to land interior defensive linemen. They need them. They need interior defensive linemen to stop the run. Offensive line wise, yes, they I mean, for lack of a better term, they lucked out. The 2 of the best tackles in the country, and Josiah Thompson and Cam Pringle, just happened to be in the state of South Carolina, and they were able to land those. They've actually done a good job out of state. Tree Babalade has come in from Maryland and has been a starter as a true freshman at left tackle, and he's had some up and down moments, but he's got a very bright future. Travon Ball is a guy that South Carolina was able to land out of Atlanta, who was a 4-star offensive lineman at the very high on. Marquis Anderson was another in-state lineman last year, interior lineman who got hurt this year, but probably would be playing. And he was an elite recruit. So they have recruited better. It's building depth, though. You have to build depth along these lines. That's why you see, if you go look at the recruiting, I think Georgia's taken 32 defensive linemen this year. They'll just line up and they're going to smash you with their defensive linemen and keep you from running the football or go attack your quarterback. And obviously with no limit to the number of players you can sign this year, only the 85-man August 1st roster, recruiting kind of the wild, wild west. You could take as many as you want in, basically have an open tryout, essentially, and guys will either compete and step up and earn playing time, or these elite 4- and 5-star guys, they'll get passed by guys with better work ethic, and then you'll cut those and maybe bring in a whole new crop next year. It's an interesting way that the NCAA is set up right now.
Yeah. Kenneth in Memphis, give a grade for Shane Beamer up to this point since he's been at Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a B. I mean, there have been good moments. We were talking about that this morning. Obviously, if you look at it, I think one thing South Carolina's done is you've seen their recruiting pick up. By and large, they have picked up some big wins. Obviously, last year Tennessee and Clemson were massive wins, but for a team that probably, I think honestly, maybe the biggest mistake for Shane Beamer, if you say mistake, was there was more success than expected in year one and definitely in year two. If year one they go 4-8, which maybe they should have. Should have they beaten Florida and Auburn like they did in year one to get to 6-6? But maybe if they go 4-8, you're like, oh, okay, well, Will Muschamp didn't leave a lot. You had to play 4 quarterbacks your first year. It is what it is. Year two, let's say you go 6-6 and you go to the Gasparilla Bowl, the Birmingham Bowl. That's probably where they should have been. But again, they beat Florida or beat Tennessee and beat Clemson. They get 8 wins. And now people this year maybe had expectations a little higher than they should be, given what the schedule has now turned out to be. I don't know if we thought Missouri would be this good. I don't know if we thought North Carolina would be the way they were, which was a better team. But, maybe if he's sitting here and he was able to finish this year 6-6, which I think is reasonable, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Clemson all at home over the next 3 weeks. If he was sitting there at 6-6, I think people would be going, yeah, okay, that's probably the right trajectory for that program. But when you win 7 the first year, you win 8 the next year, nobody wants to see backslide to 6 or 7. Then that's considered failure. So I'd probably give them a B at where they're at right now.
And what do you think led to it? I mean, coming into this year again, there was a lot of momentum, but where are the running backs? Look, I'm looking at the SEC's top running backs, and the league does not have 1,000-yard rusher, and we're going into the 10th game of the season for most schools.
Yeah, South Carolina's running backs are currently at Southern Cal, and that would be Marshawn Lloyd. Deshaun Fenwick is at Oregon State, and Rashad Amos is at Miami of Ohio. And Marshawn Lloyd might be a difference maker. I would love to see he and Mario Anderson together. I think that would make for a creative offense with those two, because as you said, South Carolina doesn't have really a second running back, a second true SEC running back behind Mario Anderson. But if you'd have just kept, and Deshaun Fenwick transferred, I think 2 years ago. I think this is his second or third year at Oregon State, but he was a guy who came in with Marshawn Lloyd. And, and Rashad Amos, he's had a really good year at Miami of Ohio. I'm not trying to sell anybody the fact that Miami of Ohio is good, but what I am telling you is he's a quality backup. If Rashad Amos was your third string backup in this league, and maybe he's getting 4 or 5 carries a game to just give guys, take wear and tear off of guys, it'd be a good situation for him. So, that's part of the transfer portal. And quite frankly, South Carolina did not go out and land a high-end running back in the portal. They missed on Logan Diggs, who went to LSU. They did not take Micah Bernard, who stayed at Utah. I can't remember the young man's name who went to Washington. But, yeah, they didn't do well in the portal at running back. And Mario Anderson's more than stepped up and carried the load, but they don't have a backup to take the pressure off of him.
Well, look at the Cody Schrader, 909 yards at Missouri. He's a pretty good back. Ray Davis at Kentucky, transferred from Vanderbilt. He didn't get the yards against Georgia, and he didn't get the yards against Tennessee. I think maybe 80 combined in those 2 games. In my opinion, I'm going, okay, if you can't show up against those teams, how are you going to make it in the NFL? Maybe he's a third down back, but you got to perform against the best. But, you mentioned the running back Diggs that went to LSU, and Jacques Doucet said this on the show last week. Wow. What has happened with LSU's running backs? Jaden Daniels is the 5th leading rusher in the SEC, like 693. In my opinion, the best back. And he was banged up early in the season, and Ole Miss switched their blocking scheme from zone to man, and now they've kind of fixed that after the Alabama loss. That's a great credit to Lane Kiffin, and they brought in an offensive line coach from NC State, but it's Quinshon Judkins. I think he's the best all-around back, maybe the best player along with Brock Bowers in the SEC and Jaden Daniels. Fair to say?
It's good. I have not thought of it just in that manner. I would have to look at the amount of touches those guys give, because I like Kendall Milton, but are they, how many touches does he get? Because part of the recruiting pitch there is, hey, we're going to team you up with 3 or 4 different running backs so that we preserve your body for the NFL, so you don't have that wear and tear, which has become a really new thing. I mean, shoot, they honored some of the South Carolina teams from 2010 to 2013 on Saturday. And, one of the discussions was just about the usage of Marcus Lattimore, who obviously didn't even get to the NFL. But, yeah, I mean, Judkins obviously has been dynamic. Again, the running game, the defensive lines are so athletic. We were talking about that. We've talked about that. The athleticism of these 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" monsters on the line is tough for offensive lines. It's tough to block them off the edge. I mean, you're looking at Alabama, a guy that I'm very familiar with, Eric Wolford, because of his time in Columbia, that I still got his phone number and talk to him on a constant basis. It's not like Alabama's trotting out their 3-star offensive linemen who don't know what they're doing. And it's developmental. Alabama's landing the best of the best on the offensive line. They're still having problems, whether it's coaching, but you just think about the elite athleticism of defensive lines in the SEC in particular, which is what separates them from the rest of college football, is the athletic guys that can run and cut and do the things on the lines. But so, running football, you got to be creative. You got to get the quarterback involved. You got to use misdirection. You got to do so many different things now to create a running game. And that in a way, again, that takes away from your true running back production numbers, I guess is what I'm saying. There's true numbers that we've seen guys in the past, like an Adrian Peterson or a Leonard Fournette or guys like that, put up these big monster numbers.
All right, we're going to address some coaching malpractice cases right after we take a pause for a couple of our sponsors. RumbleBoxingGym.com. Check them out on our website. 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis. Union and McLean across from Walgreens. This is the first of 3 locations and Camp Lee is going to open in the Memphis market. 45-minute workouts, dumbbells, planks, burpees, push-ups, star jacks, dips, you name it, and then hitting the bag. 15 3-minute sessions open every day of the week. Weekdays, 5:15, 5:30 in the morning. 48 people in these classes, elite level instructors. All the gear that you need for the classes you can purchase at RumbleBoxingGym.com. Check them out on our website. It's a great place to go. I will tell you this, it's like swimming on land. It's that good of a workout. Also, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. They've got Devil Dog jeans, Old South. They've got over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's cowboy boots, kids' boots, toy guns for the kids. They've got the largest collection of duck heads you'll find anywhere. STS wear and luggage, Filson luggage. They also have the Rock Mount shirts that are so cool. Bob Dylan wears them. Ronald Reagan wore them. Elvis Presley wore them. I got about 6 of them. They are really, really cool shirts. They got them all out there. And there's also a rack, a 50% off rack out there. HewlettandDunn.com on the historic square, Collierville, Tennessee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. And remember, when you are out there, check out Pendleton, Schaefer. Check out the Higher Boots, Vask, Light, the new Danners. I got a pair of these Danner hiking boots. We knocked out about 5 or 6 miles on this greenway up here in Clarksville. It was really hilly. Those things perform like running shoes. They're great, folks. Hewlett & Dunn. We'll take this quick commercial break again and be right back because we're going to get into some coaching malpractice issues and get the thoughts of Will Gunter.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All righty, let's do one
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Will Gunter, and we're going to throw these questions at you. I call it coaching malpractice. I want to start first with Matt House, defensive coordinator at LSU. A lot of LSU fans are sending us information in it. I know Ben Troupe was supposed to be on in this fourth segment. He had an emergency come up to get to the doctor, and our prayers are with him. I hope everything's okay with him, and he had to take somebody there. He's a good man. We'll get him back on tomorrow or Friday. But Matt House, defensive coordinator at LSU, and there were some comments that were brought in here early by one of our LSU fans, and I'm trying to find this, but it kind of puts things in perspective. But you know, you're paying a guy $2 million a year to be your defensive coordinator. Yeah, and you know, Matt House it's crazy. Should Brian Kelly fire him now or wait till after the season? Let alone all the defense has been terrible all year. They had Harold Perkins at the middle linebacker in the Florida State game. Playing him out of position one time is enough for termination, in my opinion. But what do you think?
There's no reason LSU should ever really be outside of the top. How am I phrasing this? If LSU's outside of the top 60 in defense, it's either injuries, significant injuries, or it's an incredibly bad scheme. The amount of talent that LSU ends up with, you know, we were just talking about defensive line.
Yeah.
And LSU is able to recruit a wide area, be able to land defensive linemen. Now, I will admit I'm not familiar enough with LSU to say if they've lost some transfers or some freshmen or former freshmen, elite defensive linemen have not panned out. You know, there can be a few different reasons there, but still LSU is a program who should have no problem recruiting elite defensive ends and defensive tackles. And then, of course, we know their history with defensive backs. And that one's mind-boggling to me. And you know, what direction will Brian Kelly go? I did read a good article talking about, you look across the board at who are the up-and-coming defensive coordinators. What direction is Lincoln Riley going to go? He wants a grizzled veteran. Who are you going to go out there and really get? I mean, I don't think Dave Aranda is ready to leave Baylor to go be an assistant, to go be a defense coordinator anymore. It's kind of an interesting situation because South Carolina's likely could be in the market for a defensive coordinator as well. And I'm sure there are other schools. You know, Florida just gave up 39 points to a first-time play caller. I'm not sure what Billy Napier will do there. When you talk about was it Aaron? I can't remember if it's Armstrong or what the young man is down there at Florida. But defenses right now with innovative offenses and things, it's tough. It's tough to be a defense coordinator. I'm glad that's not where I'm making my money.
Well, you're right about it, and I sit there and I think about Matt House coming from the NFL, and if you come from the NFL and you hadn't been paying attention to the way college football is played, that can be a real problem as well. And you know, not knowing about hurry up, no huddle offenses, there's just a bunch of stuff that you better be aware of. And you got to say, another coaching malpractice, Mississippi State taking, Will Rogers out of the air raid. I mean, you had Zach Arnett, defensive coordinator for 3 years. He knew how to have a defense to play along the hurry up, no huddle, the air raid. And then they changed everything and bring in this Kevin Barbay guy. It's been an unmitigated disaster. How do you, I mean, I know you want to have your own identity as the head coach. I don't want to just ride the coattails. Well, you had Mike Leach. Why wouldn't you want to ride on that momentum?
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I mean, Mike, that's Mike Leach's system. That's Mike Leach. You have to have Mike Leach to run the Mike Leach system. We've seen various people go out and hey, I want to copycat. I'll give you a perfect example because it was a big discussion here last year, and we watched it with Clemson this year. Is everybody said, "Oh, Garrett Riley, hot new offensive coordinator. Look what he's doing at TCU." Garrett Riley was running Sonny Dykes' system. I'm not sure if I was a believer in Garrett Riley when South Carolina was last year, when South Carolina was in the market for a new offensive coordinator, and everybody here said, "Well, who's the hot name? Oh, Garrett Riley. He's got the pedigree. His brother's Lincoln. Look at what TCU is doing." Well, let's dig into that. TCU was doing what TCU was doing because of Sonny Dykes. They had good players, but that's Sonny Dykes' system that he's run for a long time. I think if you're Zach Arnett, whomever you might have picked, if you wanted to stay on staff, it's still not Mike Leach calling the plays and doing the things that make that good. And so, again, going back, Kevin Barbay at Appalachian State, I'll be honest again, he was on my list of people for South Carolina to maybe hire as an offensive coordinator. I liked what he did up there. It fits college football. I think you got to give him a little bit of a break because he doesn't have the personnel that he wants to run it. Jaquavius Marks has done really good when they allowed him to run it. And then Will Rogers gets hurt. And Mike White comes in, but I don't blame that one as much on Zach Arnett because I just that's the equivalent of saying, well, when Steve Spurrier left here, retired, however you want to phrase it, that's the equivalent of just saying, well, hey, run the Steve Spurrier offense. How hard can that be? Just look at his playbook and look at the plays and just call them. Play calling is so much different than just going out and saying, all right, let's run the Mike Leach air raid system. That's if it was that successful, everybody would do it.
Yeah, it's not easy at all. But I sit there and I look around, and this is another one. I like this. Andy in Cookeville, Tennessee. Who are the up and coming head coaches out there? We've seen this in the past. You remember going back 15 years ago, the stupid coach in waiting thing that blew up. That was terrible. And a lot of these guys, you mentioned Garrett Riley. He was running Sonny Dykes' system. That's like somebody that's born into a wealthy family and they've got family money. And then all of a sudden they have to go do it on their own. Suddenly they're not that smart. They're not that successful. And they find out they've just been kind of carried along through life. If you got a lot of money, you better make your kids work. I see it in my practice. First generation employs, second enjoys, and the third destroys. Unless you make them work. And I'm talking cleaning bathrooms, basic menial tasks. I use this as an example. Who's the most respected commandant in the history of the United States Marine Corps? A man named Chester R. Puller. Was an E1, just a grunt, enlisted Marine, rose all the way to the title of commandant. And every Marine in boot camp before they go to bed, good night, Chesty, wherever you are. There's a reason for that. You mentioned Garrett Riley and his brother. That's fraudulent football they play at Southern Cal. That's a joke. They don't play defense. I mean, we have to see what's his name, Caleb Williams, painting his fingernails last year. Now he's crying. Hey, man, life's tough. If you ain't tough, you're going to get your ass kicked every day. I like what you said about the toughness. Tough times don't last forever. Tough people do. Who are the head coaches that are not going to cop, and just cave in and say, well, you can't be tough on kids today. Yeah, you can. They're begging for it. Will, you have a great mind, a great insight. I love having you on this show. Like I said, met you back in the spring and then got to meet you in person there down at Bridgestone Arena at SEC Media Days. That was a lot of fun, but you don't have a problem giving an honest opinion, but I think we need more coaches like Nick Saban, that are tough as nails. We don't need any more Lincoln Rileys who want to be their best friend and just hang out with them.
We've had this discussion all week. It's been kind of an interesting discussion, but here's the thing: Nick Saban has a tried and proven product, and so the easiest that Nick Saban can point to his product and say, "Look, it's my way or the highway." Because, hey, have you seen this trophy case behind me? You see all those guys that are making all that money. I know what I'm doing. There's few coaches that can say that. You kind of, as we started this, you were talking about Clemson. How many college football coaches are out there right now with multiple national championships? Yeah. How many national championship coaches are out there across the board right now with Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Mac Brown, and I'm forgetting one other. I'm blanking. It'll come to me. That's
you talking about the national championship coaches?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo Fisher. Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher.
I didn't hear. Yeah.
And nobody, look, Jimbo, we all agree Jimbo's system, that doesn't work. That nobody's going to believe that guy. But Kirby Smart can say, look, if I want to rip you, you look at the trophy case and you look at the NFL draft picks, and if you want to go elsewhere, go ahead. Go have a good time. I don't care. Nick Saban can do that. I don't know if Mac Brown can do that. Dabo Swinney's kind of on that thing, and as I just said, yeah, Jimbo. Somebody's gonna look at Jimbo and be like, "Fine, I'm going elsewhere. I'll go give anything else a shot." But the bottom line on that is kids these days, and we actually had this discussion. I watched it closer because I covered AAU basketball, but it's hey, I'm not playing. Fine, I'll go find another AAU team. Look at what's happening at North Carolina State. Look at what happened yesterday. This young man, MJ Morris, is a sophomore. He's 3-1 as a starter. He is the starting quarterback. He's coming off of wins over Clemson and Miami. Clemson and Miami. He's 3-1 as a starter. He's going to start the next 3 games. If he performs, they've got a chance to be at least 8-4 because they play Wake Forest and Virginia Tech, and then they play North Carolina. And he could lead NC State to a 9-3 season. And you know what he did this week? He opted out. He's saying, you know what? I've played my 4 games. I'm going to redshirt. And he's probably going to enter the transfer portal and find a program better in NC State. That's the mentality of the kids these days. I don't blame the coaches. It starts with the parents, and it starts with it kind of starting off at an early age, holding kids accountable. And, hey, if you're not playing, you know what? It's pretty simple. If you're not playing little Johnny or little Jill, you're not playing at 11 or 12 years old, you know what? Get out of the PlayStation, get out of the house, go outside and get better. Don't make me move you to another team. It's that simple. And I watched it in AAU basketball for years. It was never the kids' fault. It's never the kids' fault that they want to go hang out with their friends at the mall or go be on the lake instead of actually putting in the work, the time and effort it took to get better and beat out the guy in front of you. The easiest way to beat out the guy in front of you was to quit competing against him and go elsewhere and find a team that maybe is not as good or that they'll go ahead and hand you the starting positions. You're right about the buddy system. I agree. But I'll tell you what, you've got 130, 231 programs out there, and there's only about 5 or 6 who can rip into a kid's rear end, and that kid looks around and says, "Oh, you're right, coach. You've got championships. You've got draft picks. You've got your production. Everything's there." And so, if it's an interesting situation in college football. And that MJ Morris situation at
NC State.
NC State is again a sign. That's where we all have to draw a line on the transfer portal and maybe even on the redshirt rule as well.
You know what I would do if I were Dave Doran, the head football coach at NC State? I would personally escort him off campus. I would kick him out. This guy is he's a selfish, narcissistic kid. He's not going to be good for a locker room in college or the pros. And for these parents that insert themselves into the conversation, go into the coaches' offices Wednesday and start ripping into the coaches. Why aren't you playing my son at quarterback or whatever? Shame on them. It's disgraceful. And I think my kids always say this. They're right. The kids today aren't the problem. It's the parents. They want to be the kid's best friend. And you're right about AAU basketball. I mean, it teaches selfishness, narcissism. You know, the thing about narcissists, they write their own story as they go along. They just make it up. Another thing about narcissists and manipulative people, they cry a lot. especially when they know they're wrong. How many Hollywood stars have we seen on TV that come out and cry and say they were abused as children? It may have been true, but a lot of times they're just making it up. I think the problem with college football is enough coaches have caved to these weaklings. And that's a problem. You've got to be tough on them. They want that. But you've got a kid at NC State. This guy right now is, to me, public enemy number one for the college football fan. Because we have Tommy Kane on the show a lot from over in Charlotte, NC State alum. He says that fan base over there is licking their chops for success. And you got a quarterback that leads them to a 3-1 record and opt out. No, I'm not giving that. I'm tired of all this virus crap. Every time you go to a grocery store, curbside pickup, get your ass out of your vehicle and go in and get your own food. It's a joke. We've allowed this country, and it seeps into the kids. You're right. You know what you tell that kid? This is what's expected. It's unimaginable. People say, well, you're old school saying that. It's not new school. And if you're allowing a kid to he quit on his team. I wouldn't want him anywhere near the complex. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. Yeah.
He let you got seniors on that team. This is
yes.
we all think every football player is about to go play in the NFL and make millions of dollars. But there's seniors on that NC State team who are going, wait a minute. Now, the guy behind him who's going to step in, Brendan Armstrong, was a transfer quarterback. And he's from Virginia. See how that works? He left his team to go to NC State. But the bottom line is I don't look. I'm about to coach starting tomorrow night. What is it? I don't know, 11 and 12. I don't know what age group. 11. My son's 11. Yeah, it's 11 and 12. Basketball. And I'll say this: I've coached AAU just last year. My son got into AAU, and I'm a little bit more Frank Martin than I should be without some of the verbiage that Frank uses on. But I'm a tough kid, and I've had more parents come up to me and go, "Man, I love that. I love that you. Thank you, because the kids got better. They're held accountable."
Yes.
And so I think there are people out there, and I hate to lump everybody in it, but I think you've got this kid at NC State who essentially, and you're seeing it, by the way, I think there's 2 instances this year at high school. I think there's 2. I know there's a kid who is committed to, I think, Colorado, and maybe one to Southern Cal, that have quit on their high school teams. I'll tell you, I don't believe in that. Now, granted, I didn't play basketball. I played high school basketball, but I wasn't a starter, and I was about the 6th or 7th rotation guy. And my senior year, I had an opportunity to go to a small private academy here in the state of South Carolina, and I would have been the starter. I would have been the best player on the team. It was awesome. It sounded great. I got a recruiting pitch. It was the neatest thing ever. I get to be recruited, and my dad simply came to me and said, "Look, you got 2 options. You can go play for a bad team and be the head guy on the team, or you can be with all your friends you've grown up with, and you can finish your senior year." And we ended up winning the state championship. And I would have hated myself. It would be the biggest regret in my life if I left my teammates, even though I wasn't the starter and didn't play a lot. And this kid, MJ Morris, has elected to pull out on his seniors, who most of them may never go play football again. This will be it when they take their final snap. He's cost them a chance to hold a victory over the seniors, a victory over North Carolina, and have a 9-win, maybe a 10-win season.
Yeah,
6-3. I hate it, but that's where it is. But to go all the way back to your point, if Dave Dorn is Nick Saban and has multiple national championships and multiple NFL draft picks, then Dave Dorn can probably go, you know what? Get out of here. I don't need you. I'll put somebody behind you. But it's NC State. They don't recruit like Alabama. They don't have the depth that Alabama does. He knows for Dave Dorn to continue to make a really nice living, to make millions upon millions of dollars, he's going to need MJ Morris next year. But keep an eye on this. Just watch this situation. Watch MJ Morris. Why would you stop being what is for most kids a dream, a starting quarterback at a big time school in a big time conference? Why would you stop unless you're already thinking, you know what? I'm too good for NC State. I wonder who else will take me next year. I wonder who's got more NIL dollars for me next year. Who pulls out with 4 games after playing 4 games? I've never heard of that. I've never heard of it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
and unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at with college football.
Well, it's got to stop. And one thing's true. Zebras don't change their stripes. They just change their watering holes. somebody's a scumbag and a cheater and a lowlife, they're going to be a scumbag and a cheater and a lowlife wherever they are. And the same problems that kid has at NC State, quitting on his team. I played my 4 games. I would kick him out. I would personally take his bags and get him off campus and issue a restraining order. I wouldn't want him anywhere near the football complex. I like what Tim Corbin, the baseball coach at Vanderbilt, did. He was around all that losing mentality in the Vanderbilt athletic department. He moved the baseball program out of there. In the last 10 years, they've played for 5 or 6 national championships at Vanderbilt in baseball, and they've won a couple of them. Surround yourself with winners, not whiners.
Well, here's the other side to that, because this is where a lot of people might say, hey, Dabo Swinney's got it right. There's a lot of kids who transfer for the right reasons.
Yeah, I get it.
For the right reasons. There's a lot. Let's not lump them all together.
No, there are legitimate reasons. I agree.
But this is why I understand Dabo Swinney not wanting to go into the transfer portal and build his team, because those kids, you think those kids are committed to Clemson, or you think they're committed to themselves? When times get tough, do you think they're committed to making Clemson better, or do you think they're committed to focusing on themselves and focusing on the future? And that's the interesting part of the transfer portal. You better do your due diligence. Why is this kid transferring, and what happens when there is adversity? Will that kid continue to fight for me, or does he care about himself? Does he care about his teammates? Yep. So you look at this kid. That's an interesting thing, just as it pertains to the future of college football and how this transfer portal is playing out.
I watched a movie last night with my brother-in-law, Kurt, 26 years in the Marine Corps, went to Somalia, went to Afghanistan, went to Iraq, was in Fallujah. It's called The Covenant. Have you ever seen it?
No, I'm not. By the way, I watched the Rangers and the Red Wings last night and mixed in Auburn, Baylor basketball.
I got you. No, but we watched it last night, and it was about in Afghanistan, an interpreter who had lost a family member to the Taliban. Basically, he put his own life on the line for 3 weeks to rescue an American soldier and save his life. It's an incredible story. That's the kind of movie on a Friday night before a football game that I take my team to watch. Not The Bachelor and all that other crap that's on there, okay? And the music that they play, I could fart in a bucket and sound better than that stuff. You know, I think that it's this incident, and I just texted Tommy Kane over in Charlotte, Mr. NC. He even has a company called Pack Productions. Oh, of the Wolfpack. He's a guy that was a manager at NC State, and it's kind of like the old Coca-Cola commercial with, Mean Joe Green throwing the jersey to the kid for a Coke. Tommy's there. Jim Valvano is dying of cancer. They're playing Duke the following day, and they're down on the roster, and Les Robinson had taken over as the coach. He throws a jersey to Tommy, who's a manager from Wilmington, North Carolina, grew up dreaming. He would have crawled, he probably did, to Raleigh to play for the Wolfpack. Says, hey, you're playing tomorrow. We're down a man. You better be ready. All his life, he prepared for that moment. And that defined who he is, because he was there. Give me a roster full of Tommy Kanes. Give me a roster full of these kids that never quit. They showed Hugh Freeze giving a scholarship to a kid the other day at Auburn. He's married. He's got a young little baby. And he said, you've been going in debt and doing all this stuff. And he's on the scout team. But he loves it that much. That's the guy I want to employ, Will. Not a guy when I look at his resume and says, Will, okay, you were at this school, and then you transferred to Florida State, then you transferred to South Alabama, then you transferred to Southern Miss, then you ran out of schools to transfer to. So if I give you a job, are you going to quit the first time I throw some hard work at you? Wake up, people. What these guys on ESPN are telling you is you can't be tough on these kids, is why these kids aren't tough.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are kids, toughness in football, toughness in life. There can be two different things, but yeah, it's interesting to see where we're going with college football. And again, let me be very clear on this. I love college football.
I do too.
This has been one of my favorite years that I've watched because, and let me pull this back up here on my computer as I sit here and talk to you. You look at the schedule for this weekend, and it's phenomenal. Michigan and Penn State, Missouri and Tennessee, Georgia and Mississippi. I mean, these are games. We have so many teams. I don't think I've ever seen it where we are in a position where there's 12 or 13 teams where if the ball bounces right, if a break happens here, a break happens there, that we've got that they can get into the college football playoff. And I hate to say it like this because it contradicts everything I just said.
Yeah.
But if this is the byproduct of NIL and the transfer portal, where every year we're going to have 15 or 16 teams when we get to this 12-team playoff, and we're like, man, I don't know who's going to win. I don't see an elite team. I don't see an Alabama from 2013 or 2014. I don't see a Clemson in 2015. I don't see a Georgia 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Hey man, sign me up for it. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'm 41. My kid is not going to be a college football player unless his mom did something behind my back and he hits a major growth spurt.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Look, I'm as fired up as I ever have been about college football and basketball and everything. It's these individuals that pull stunts like the kid at NC State that need to be outed. And this is not cool. You are part of something.
There's been people like that all the time. It's just the rules allow it to happen now. The rules allow it to happen.
Yeah, the rules allow it to happen. That's all I'm saying. The interest, like my son Wilson in Charlotte says, every weekend in college football this year has been like March Madness opening weekend. That's how cool it is. We'll figure it out. The free market will figure it out. This kid at NC State, I can assure you, if he stays at NC State, he ain't going to have the respect of his teammates. He's not. He's not going to own that locker room. And if he transfers somewhere, everybody that is on the team where he transfers will simply be waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what? Stick it out, grind it out. Quitting is endemic. The first time you quit, it's hard. Second time, you got to think about it. The third time, you don't even think about it. So just grind it out. I understand people transfer jobs. They do stuff like that. But tough people outlast soft weaklings. Always have, always will. But the game, you're right. We love it. It's getting better and better. Will, look, we ran out of time. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, man. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution, the preamble reads, we the people, not we the government. The fans, our sponsors, our viewers, our listeners, everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Will, let them know how they can follow you and all the great work you do. And loved having you on, man. This is great stuff. And I know that you're not going to opt out before the broadcast is over, are you?
No, I am doing my second. I've got a business I run, and I am keeping one eye on some things right now here to my right. But just follow me on Twitter, man. We got a good radio program. We're actually doing a television show as well for the University of South Carolina now called the Cocktail Hour, where we cover all the sports as part of a Gamecocks Plus subscription. But obviously with Cumulus Broadcasting, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.5 The Game in Florence, South Carolina, and 100.3 on the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach and Conway and that whole area. So you can be down at the beach and listen to sports talk. And anytime you're in town. And of course, you can always follow me on Twitter, 1L WILGUNTER.
Will, you got a great show. It ain't good. It's great. Thank you so much for your time. It means the world to us. Got a stacked up show tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. Go out and make something great happen. We're out of here.